Welcome to Your Voice Dorset Podcast, and my name is Marilyn Barber, and I'm delighted to speak to Matt Black, Mr. Piano Man, and that's a very appropriate name for you, isn't it?
It's what I do.
It's what you do,
Yeah.
but you do far more than that.
Well, yeah, I suppose I do. But I'm probably known more for just playing the piano.
Yes.
You know.
Now, I've seen you, and you're amazing. You're one of these people who just doesn't look at the keys and you play. When did you start to realise that you were good at music?
That's a good question because I literally don't think I'm good at music.
You don't?
No.
I think you're being very modest.
I'm trying not to be. I'm trying to be honest. I work with some amazing piano players, like Ben Waters.
Yes,
and
he's very,
Steve
very
Christie
good.
in Southampton. They're absolutely incredible piano players. Marky Dawson, absolutely brilliant.
But how did you start? I mean, did you take music at school?
No, I don't read music. I call it the Stevie Wonder method because he doesn't read music either. And that proves that you can do it. Do you see what I mean?
Did you enjoy music at school? I mean, were you a child who wanted to sing along to the latest records?
I think singing is another thing. I don't really count myself as a singer. My voice is a bit low for many songs, so it doesn't really fit in. But some songs it fits really well. But with the piano, I was about 16 or 17 when I realised that I could pick out a tune on it, and it was really simple. It was, I think it was My Lucky Entire, actually was the first one. And I realised that the keys have patterns. And then if you press the same key in the same pattern, they sound the same.
Yes.
So I realised it wasn't 88 notes. It was just about 12 notes I had to worry about.
Right.
And then once that was in my head logically, it wasn't a hurdle that I couldn't jump.
But you started with one finger. I mean, how did you end up getting both hands working?
It's like you drive a car. Like when you start to drive a car, you're trying to concentrate on where your hand is and you're stumbling a little bit. The more you do it, the more fluent you become. It's the same with the language. Like if you went to learn Spanish, you'd be stumbling around a little bit. And then the more you do it, your muscle memory takes over, your brain takes over. Same with the piano. Think of a piano like or any musical instrument like a language. The more you do it every day, your brain fills in the gaps and then handles the hard parts.
Yes. Did you have any lessons?
No.
I mean, you had a piano in the home, did you?
There was an upright piano.
So did your parents play then?
No, my nan did. It skipped mum and dad's generation.
Right. So there was music there.
Yeah, she had a grand piano. I remember my first memories, she had a grand piano in her house. And I remember being told not to play it all the time. But there was something about it. Something about the sound, something about the way it looked. And I still feel that now. The shape of a piano to me is beautiful. And I just drawn to it. There's no other instruments, but just that. And I love it.
So at the age of 17, you realised that you could play the piano. So did you then think, I'll be a musician?
No. Again, I was taking lots of A levels. I was destined to be in the MOD all my life. I ended up being an underwater sonar.
Destined to be? Was that something your parents wanted you to do?
No. They said take the science. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And they said take the science. So I took a lot of. I got all the O levels. I got top grades and everything. I think I've got somebody else's results. And to this day, I think there's a road sweeper who's highly intelligent somewhere in Dorset that's really miffed because he got my results instead. But I think I got all these O levels and they said, well, what A levels do you want to do? And I said, I don't want to do any. I'm just leaving. And I got a job at the MOD in Portland Naval Base.
Right.
And it was underwater sonar.
So you were born in Dorset then?
No, born in Keynsham near Bristol.
Right.
And Dad was a policeman.
Yeah.
And we travelled about 8 times up and down the country from Scunthorpe, Cleethorpes, Grimsby, that area, Plymouth. Then we went to Bridport, landed in Weymouth. That's where we stayed. And I was in my secondary school then, so Dad refused to move anymore.
Yes.
And then that's where that started. So no, I had no designs to be a musician. It's just something I picked up. And then after a while, realised that I could do it and people liked it. So it's something I realised I could do after I was doing it.
Yes. So, I mean, you worked for the MOD. Were you then playing in pubs and things?
No, it was just before, really. So I started at the MOD in about 1984 and finished in roughly 1989, something like that. I realised that that sort of environment, it's very wasteful when you work for a government company or government organisation. You see the waste, and it really got to me. I'm thinking it really annoyed me.
I think some of our listeners would be quite scared to hear this, really.
Well, yes. It's just not really a secret because, I mean, there's budgets every year and they try to spend up to their budget so they don't get it reduced, which is counterproductive.
So you felt this wasn't really for you?
There was a lot of dysfunctional things in there. And as a rule, I think the people who became institutionalized within it, highly intelligent people, they were dysfunctional too.
And they feel they can't get out of it, I guess. But you obviously did get out of it.
I escaped, yeah.
Yes. And so how old were you when you left then?
If I do the maths, I was just about 21, 22.
Right. And so then you were going to be a musician?
By then I'd played piano, I think, for about, after we left school. I realised I wasn't going to be a Chippendale because of the way I looked.
Oh, you're so modest.
Well, yeah, I know. You always wonder. But I realised I haven't got those classic looks that everyone needs, and I realised that the piano does make you look attractive to the fairer sex, and so I was about 16 or 17 when I sort of concentrated on that.
Yeah, it was a good move then, really, wasn't it?
It worked.
So, do you remember the first time you played in public?
Crikey, I think first time I played the piano in public. I don't really remember the first gig. It would have been in Weymouth somewhere.
And what sort of music would you have played?
It would have been just the stuff I know, which would have been about 4 tunes. Mull of Kintyre.
Right.
I think Chariots of Fire.
Yes.
Is another one.
Because you do play classical as well. I mean, you like singing Elton John songs, don't you?
Love Elton John.
But you also can play classical music.
Well, the classical music you've heard is my version of it.
Oh, right.
So if for example, I was a painter and you saw the Mona Lisa, it would be like me doing a version of the Mona Lisa.
Oh, I see. So it's your version of the classic.
Yeah. So it sounds like it. It's almost like a caricature of it, like Toccata and the Flight of the Bumblebee. But then anyone who's a classical connoisseur would know that I'm cutting corners all over the place.
Clearly I'm not then.
Yeah, well,
so did you ever play in a band or were you just playing on your own?
Yeah, been in a few bands.
Yeah.
And sort of a couple of local bands, Strange Brew, which was still going. It's like 30 years ago. Every year we do like a reunion gig. Now my son Chris is the lead singer in that.
Yes.
So that's a great full circle thing.
Is he a pianist as well?
He plays everything.
Does he?
Yeah, guitar, drums, piano.
But you say you only play piano.
I have guitars in my recording studio. But I keep on picking them up and I got no natural ability for that at all.
And when does the humour bit, 'cause I think you're naturally quite a funny person, but when did you decide to include humour in your act?
I realised I'm a big fan of Billy Connolly.
Right.
And it's quite well known that he was a folk musician.
Yes.
And the links got longer. And then eventually he left his musical instruments at home.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing happened to me. But links, I'd put a joke in.
Yes.
And because you're doing something else, you're not just standing up in front of someone telling jokes. Because you're playing the piano and just telling a joke, it's not so difficult for people to listen to it.
It's not so scary either.
That's right.
It's very scary.
People are scared of being embarrassed.
Yes.
But if you're doing something else, it's like a shield. So you play the piano, you tell a joke, and then think, this is fine. His piano playing is fine. His jokes are terrible, but you're halfway there. You're not just nothing.
And you gear it up to your audience, and I think you know where I'm coming from here. Don't you?
I'm not a PC person.
No.
I'm not anti-PC.
No,
I'm not. I don't aim to be offensive.
But you obviously, if you've got an audience which will appreciate something that's a bit nearer the knuckle, you're not unhappy to do that.
Well, I love doing it. That's my default brain, really. I have to edit it in if I'm not doing it. It's harder to do, but it's much more gratifying when you do what I call a clean gig.
Yes.
But yeah, the army gigs and the bikers gigs, you just let go and they're great.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Who are your musical heroes?
Rick Wakeman is my favourite piano player. Elton John, absolutely.
I know you
incredible.
love singing Elton John songs.
It's not just it's the way he plays them, it's the way he sings them, but also the songs, what they mean.
Yes.
You can fit it to what you want. My favourite song is "Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me." It just seems to mirror my life, and it's absolutely incredible. I get very emotional when I play it, and I love it. But yeah, so Bernie Taupin and Elton John to be able to come up with those songs is incredible. Vangelis as a musician, and Hans Zimmer for the same reason, and lots of people. Drop
some names. You've worked with some famous people.
Yeah, well, I work more closely at the moment with a guy called Richard Digers, who's a folk comedian. He's been on television a lot. In fact, we're doing his birthday party in February. We do it every year. But he calls me his best mate, and I find that very strange. But the thing about Richard is he's noticed by a lot of people. And when we go out or if we do a meal, he gets clocked quite a lot.
Yes.
But I haven't done it on purpose, but I don't treat him like a celebrity. I treat him like a mate.
I think it's better to do that with all of them.
Yeah.
Really. Yes.
It is, but I think because of that, he's not scared of let's go out for a pint.
Yes.
I'm not going to ask him to sign everything.
What about big stars? Have you worked with any big stars?
Yes, I have. In many different cases, I've worked with a lot of people. Some private gigs, which I don't tend to put on the CV.
No.
Because if someone's asked you to do a private thing, it's not really a gig.
No.
It's more of a celebration of what they do. And you were there, so it's like an honour. Do you see what I mean? And I worked with some giants in that case, and the royal family as well. I've done a lot of gigs for the royal family.
Have you?
Yeah. And I've not done anything for the king yet.
No.
While Her Majesty was alive.
Yes.
I did lots of gigs.
How did you get work with the royal family?
I just fell into it. An agent asked me if I would just play over dinner, and can I do a gig without saying?
So you've got an agent then?
No, it was an agent who knew me.
Right.
Yeah. I refused to have one agent or one manager. No. So if people, they can approach us, and if I feel like I want to do it, I've got complete autonomy then, yes. Which makes it work a lot of sense. And they said, can I do a gig without saying anything? And I said, well, yeah. He said, well, what we wanted to do is just play, but I can't tell you where it is until later. And it happened to be at Buckingham Palace.
Wow.
And that's what I said. Words to that effect.
So had they told you where you were going to go? They hadn't told you where you were going to go?
They needed to know I was available in London on a certain date.
Right.
And I was happy with what the fee was.
And they escort you there?
Yeah. You had I think because of my work in the MOD, it was easy for me to get a security pass because of the links there, going back along. They do a whole check on you. But because of that, yes. I think that went well.
So you arrived and you thought, oh my goodness.
Oh, I knew a week or so before.
Yeah, you knew where you were going to be.
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of security, so they tend to, then you're escorted through and given a pass and shown where to go. You end up with the butler's quarters, basically. And then it's time to sit in front of the piano.
Yes. And I think you've worked with Boy George, haven't you?
Yes, yeah, briefly.
How did that happen?
That he was booked on the same bill. So it was for Sony that they were doing a gig. I was doing the support, and Boy George was the main act. And he was fascinating, very intelligent.
Yeah, I think that's how he comes across.
Yeah, really liked him. I didn't get a lot of chance to talk to him. We were talking backstage mostly, but he had a good sense of humour. And he was doing his DJ set, so it was not like you wouldn't expect. He wasn't doing Karma Chameleon or anything like that. No, but you meet these people and you realise that's why they are who they are. It's not just what they do on stage or their image, but they have an instinct that they know what the audience wants. They know where the audience is. They know what that tightrope is. Yes. So they can walk that tightrope. So intellectually, that's what they're doing. And that's why I think that people gravitate towards those entertainers. You realise that they know what they're doing and making it look easy, like a clown. When you look closer to it. They're acrobats and they're comedians, and they're not just people painted faces with noses on.
Have you met anybody who sort of fazed you? Somebody who was a hero, and you think, "Oh my goodness, I'm in the presence of this person."
Yeah, Rick Wakeman was a bit like that.
Was it?
Yeah. I was a bit scared to sort of talk because he's a complete natural piano player and composer, but he's got a great sense of humour as well. So I knew he was quick. And I just didn't know what to say. I just babbled away through just saying hello.
Do you have to practice still or not?
I think, sometimes people ask me to
do you play gigs every day?
I've got a recording studio.
Yes.
So I tend to...
Your recording studio's in Wimborne, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. It's called Hangover Hill. It's I work pretty much every day with clients, and they'll come in and they'll either sing a song or they've got a guitar. They give me an idea what song it is. So I fill in the gaps with the keyboards. And so I play every day, but I think the last time I practiced was maybe over lockdown. Someone challenged me to play River Dance. Right. And I've always wanted to try and do it, but I listened to it and then gave up quite easily because it's so hard.
Is it? Yeah.
There's not a square time in there. It's quite I think you have to be, a Gaelic musician to understand it, like a jazz musician. But I just forced myself through it and learned to play a version again of it, which people recognise. Yeah. But yes, I still know the shortcomings of it, but I hide them.
Can I just go to Hangover Hill?
Yeah.
Why is it called Hangover Hill?
Oh, it's...
If you don't mind
No, I
talking
don't
about
mind
it.
at all. I mean, it's quite well known. I have a drink. I've been alcoholic for years. I've done this for about 30 odd years now. And the first 20 odd years, I was probably drinking a bottle of tequila a gig. Well, the last part of that, I was drinking a bottle of tequila a gig, which is a problem.
A gig?
Yeah, absolutely.
My goodness.
And thank goodness Facebook wasn't around then, because otherwise every year I'd be reminded about all the things I wasn't doing.
But you still
right.
managed to play.
I don't know how. I have no idea how. It was autopilot. But and I think in those days, a lot of the other people were in the same situation. There was more of a drinking culture 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So people were in the same boat. But anyway, I realised it was a problem for me, and it took me a while. And just over a decade ago, I managed to stop. Anyway, just before that, I was living in Petersfield, and the name of the house was called Pruitt's Hill, outside Petersfield.
Mm.
And it's where my studio started to be commercial, where people want to come around and do things. So my ex-wife years ago used to know someone who had a flat called Hangover Hall. And so I called my studio Hangover Hill because it was based on Pruitt's Hill. Then when I moved away, it stuck. So wherever I've been, it's been called Hangover Hill. But also, subsequently, it now means more because the way I've stopped drinking is over the Hangover Hill. So it has a sort of synergy to it that really works. Otherwise, and also it's Google whackable. You can't find it anywhere else.
I mean, you're quite an extrovert, so you didn't need the alcohol.
I don't know if I am. I think I've read into, not extensively, but I think extroverts sometimes could appear to be introverted.
Yes.
And I think that's what I am. And I probably used alcohol to act like, I think I'm not really a funny person, and I'm not really a confident person, but I should get an Oscar for acting like one for so long. And I think that's what it is. It's a big act.
You're quite a psychologist, aren't you?
Yeah.
Really, you analyze everything.
Probably overanalyze everything.
But a lot of extroverts aren't really or they appear to be extroverts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it helps when you're on stage to appear to be the person that would do anything.
Yes.
And when I was at the bottom of a bottle of tequila, I probably would.
Yeah.
And people still think of me in that way sometimes. So it's always helped a little bit to have that rogue label. Yeah. And I think there is that in me as well. There's a thing in me where my dad was a policeman, and he was in the Sweeney, and it was quite a tough part to be.
Yes.
But that sort of mentality is where you're not thinking about whether it's scary or not. You just go and do the job. And I'm all about just do it. Don't worry about how you're feeling. Don't worry about what the consequences are. If you're pretty sure it's not going to hurt anybody, do it and find out what it is the other side of the door. And so that's me, but I don't think that's an extrovert. I think that's just a mindset.
Do you get nervous before a gig?
Yeah. And if you don't get nervous, you have to check everything.
You do?
Yeah. There's something wrong if you're not nervous.
But I'm sure that you're the sort of person, if you make a mistake, and it must happen sometimes, does it?
You repeat it.
Right.
You make it look like you meant to do it. There's a whole music genre based on that called jazz.
Oh, right. Yes. So they can just sort of play any notes really in any sort of...
And then play it twice and everyone goes, oh, that's amazing.
Is there a piece of music, you mentioned river dance, but is there a piece of music that you've always wanted to play but you haven't got the confidence to play in public?
Yeah. I've never quite got all the way through Bohemian Rhapsody.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, but I'm not really Chris, my lad, can play it, but I'm not a massive fan of Queen. I love some Queen. And Bohemian Rhapsody is a great track. But I think, again, that's a piece of art that they did it so well. Why do I don't want to cheapen it. Just let them, their version's great.
I mean, didn't they use computers to generate a lot I
think when that was recorded, I think it was manual. That's the thing. It was recorded at Rockfield Studios in Wales. And I've been there. I've been in the room where they recorded it. And it's absolutely, it's lovely being there. I mean, it's incredible. Everyone knows of Bohemian Rhapsody. It's so famous. And everyone said it wasn't going to work. And all these tunes you get nowadays, you get like 20 producers and 20 writers. That was one producer, one writer, Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
And he knew what he wanted to do. Yeah. And so there's something about that where it's perfect. And even the imperfections are perfect. So if I did a version, it'd have to be so good for me to want to play it.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it to the expert.
Yeah. Now, you help young performers as well to your studio, don't you?
Yeah, well, in all sorts of ways. My wife, Mel, is...
Who you married last year?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, finally. We got stopped by COVID, and I was trying to think of another reason until I couldn't. So, but no, she's incredible. Absolutely amazing. She was a teacher. I met her years ago as a waitress, and she became a teacher. She says now working for me is very much like being a teacher, except that kids grow up. I like that sense of humour.
She's obviously got the same sense of humour as you've got.
She really has. She's insane. But she's one of the directors of the company. So with her, we formed the company. And because of that, we've grown and grown and grown more than the sum of the two parts, I think. And part of that is nurturing original artists and to have the studio to help them to make their records, so they don't have to spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on it. We're a 2-man team. We can make it very affordable. At that point, we can then help them to release it if they want to. We can then put them on a stage. We work a lot with the Lighthouse in Poole, and they're very helpful. We do a monthly gig there called Live and Unheard, which is new artists that you may not have heard before. And we've done that for about 6 or 7 years now, and we put bigger gigs on in there that progress through. So we're in a place. We also got a radio show that we do weekly called Black on Track, where that's 2 hours of original music. And that goes out onto 7 or 8 different stations, I think.
Oh, right.
I think we've got about 80,000 listeners a week at the moment on that one. So we're able to take someone with a song.
So do you interview people on that, or you interview them and they play as well?
Yeah, we do 1 or 2 interviews. Normally it's just the music, people sending in, or stuff from the studio. But from that point of view, we're able to... Someone comes in with an idea, like a 12-year-old's written a song, and mum and dad think it's a great song, so they can come in and we can add the drums, the bass, the guitars around what they're doing, get them to sing it, get them used to the recording process, and then once we've made the record, we can then, if they wanted to, they progress through. We've had this a few times. A guy called Calvin Glenn, we've known for years. We've worked with him over the years, and he was in the studio just last week, and it's great to see how he's now in London doing all these musical theatre shows, and to watch him start recording with us all that time ago, it's nice to be part of the process.
Yes.
And then getting out on the radio. So we're able to sort of be with them in most stages if they need help with it.
Sometimes you must have people who come along and you think, oh dear,
it's
not going to really make it. So that's a tough one, isn't it?
I think not to be a judge. I'm never going to be saying to people, this is brilliant, everyone's going to love it. I'll make, again, think of music like a painter, like a visual painter. So if you're the artist and like you're the songwriter and you come to the gallery and you say, well, listen, I haven't got any paint, I haven't got any canvas, but I've got an idea for a painting and I can paint. So you do your painting. Now our job then would be to put it in the right wall and the right frame, but not to change the painting, just to put the right lighting on it so that people can see it for what it is. So as a producer, that's where I come from. I don't want to change what they're doing. If they ask for my advice, I'll give it. But I take the judgment out of it completely. We work on a lot of tracks that I wouldn't listen to. But I'm interested in the technological aspects. Is the voice coming over right? Is it sound right with the sound underneath it? And then if it does and they're happy with it, the client's happy, then we've done our job. So my job is to do that. But if you start to judge it, and who to say I know what I'm talking about? My musical taste is completely eclectic.
Well, I was going to ask you about your musical taste, really. What sort of music would you sit and listen to?
I love listening to soundtrack music from films.
Do you?
Hans Zimmer.
And actually, people quite like it when you play soundtracks from films, don't they?
Yeah, because they can.
And you do it also from TV programs from way back, don't you?
Well, they're better, aren't they? Now, I mean, you hear TV programs now, you can't remember them, but Flintstones and Postman Pat, they're all really, really clever tunes because you remember them. Even if they're just kids' things. Again, psychology comes into that. There's a lot of psychology in the kids' programs. They're harder to make than other programs are. But so I like that. And it gives people a sense of nostalgia as well. But nostalgia really works for a lot of people.
Yes. Are you disappointed that you never had a hit record?
No.
Or did you never try for that?
Yeah, no, I've on purpose, it sounds like saying it after the horse is bolted, but on purpose, I've decided not to do television. I've been asked to do television a few times. And I didn't want to be in that.
What sort of television would you be asked to do?
Well, there was a couple of times. They were going to do Jukebox Jury again.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Gosh.
And
That's a blast from the past.
Yeah, it was a few years ago, and they asked if I'd be on the panel as the comedic element on one side, and it was the pilot show. And it got to the point where we were just about to film it, and the day or so before, the host was Jules Holland. And then they said, "Oh, by the way, don't wear black." And I was thinking, well, have you read my name? What colour do you think I'm going to wear? So I said, forget it. And I wasn't, they were like, pulling out. Yeah, absolutely I am. You know, you don't tell someone that. And because someone else is wearing black.
Yes.
No.
And that didn't happen anyway, did it?
Well, I don't know whether they did it or not. But I think they got someone else in. There's plenty of other people where I come from. But, you know, I've learned to say no when I don't want to do it. And that's worked really well because now I'm in charge of what I want to do. And so it worked. It's great. So television is, well, I want to do television, but it would have led me into the business part of it, where people are taking a cut of what you're doing.
Yes.
The middlemen, the grey area, all that stuff exists. Now, I think real music is the resistance now. It's the people who are doing it in their bedrooms or writing songs. Some of the songs that come from our songs are absolutely incredible. They will make you stand with your jaw open. And you think, if this had been John Lennon who recorded this, just because of his name, a great songwriter as well, but if he'd have put it out, it would have been famous because everyone knows him.
Yes.
But this song on its own stands up, but you know it's going to be harder to get through, but they still exist.
And do you write your own songs?
Yes, I do. I've started to write more. I would say I've struggled.
Do you start with the music first or the lyrics first?
I start with the concept first. Well, what's the song about? What's the story? And that's where I've been going wrong, actually. But just recently, I managed to write a couple that I really like. I've been trying for a long time. There was a book by Elijah Wolfe, who's a Weymouth or West Dorset musician, about songwriting, and he brought that out a couple of years ago. And one of the things in it is if you're going to write a song, finish it, even if it's terrible. And that works. I'm
just going to end with one last question. What do you love about Dorset?
I love the way that in the music business part of it, I love the way that everyone supports everybody. It's not a race. It's a house of cards where you need every card for the house to be there. Yeah. So it doesn't matter who's on top, but you need the bottom. They're all as important. But also the countryside. You don't get Oakford Hill is one of the best views in the world. Yeah. You travel across the world to see that, and it's literally a drive away. It's brilliant.
Lovely. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
It's a pleasure. It's great to be here. Thank you so much, Marilyn.